You may have heard that Star Citizen 3.24 finally went live and people are pissed. Pyro's delayed, cargo is broken and nothing is working. But not to worry, handsome viewer, your favorite degenerate sound effect generator is here to talk about what the hell is going on. The latest live patch bears the label Cargo Empires, and as of recording this video, the state of things is less empire and more abandoned village of special needs peasantry, which kind of sucks because I was excited to get my space Genghis Khan on to raid, pillage and plunder my way through Stanton one SEU at a time. But no one's going to be fleecing disenfranchised traders who cannot fit the square through the circle hole because none of the blocks work. I streamed a bit of our ludicrous space game recently and was asked non-stop by my massive and impressive community about my thoughts on the patch so far. Okay, fine, I got like one question from one guy, so instead of giving him what he wanted, I'm giving all of you what you never asked for. My thoughts on 3.24, the 18th Pyro delay, and my sentiment on the state of the project as a whole. Man, what great value. 3.24 has been released in a really bad state, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's already multiple hotfixes in the works or already deployed by the time this video goes live, as the devs were literally working on a Sunday for God's sake, which is unholy but gives me hope for the patch's near future. As for what I think about 3.24, I believe it's the most anti-pay-to-win Star Citizen patch of all time, because now with the way cargo works, you don't sell commodities directly from your ship, a ship that you would have historically needed to own yourself either in-game or with real-world money. You sell the commodities by moving all your SEUs onto cargo elevators sprinkled throughout Stanton, which, if they work, is pretty neat. Because if you look at someone like Summit1G, who single-handedly catapulted Star Citizen's Twitch viewership into the stratosphere for a month, I feel like his audience tends to represent your average everyday gamer who might come into Star Citizen one day and tackle the same sort of gameplay he did. That is, stealing ships, stealing cargo, and doing epic pirate things. With 3.24, this type of player does not need to own a $400+ starship or grind for its equivalent in-game to sell cargo from. The gameplay opportunities for piracy are immediately more accessible. This is a huge win because it creates exciting gameplay in our ludicrous PvPvE space game. We just need the cargo elevators to consistently work. So with the physical act of moving cargo to sell it now a thing, it's become more of a time investment to make larger potential profit margins while trading instead of just clicking a button and flying from A to B to click another button. Star Citizen has always strived to be a very physicalized game, and seeing these mechanics realized is a good thing in my book because it allows for more goal-driven gameplay scenarios to exist. Not only that, but it even more so encourages group play. 2 or 3 people moving boxes speeds things up tremendously, and using teamwork to optimize a gameplay loop in a multiplayer game shouldn't be that hard of a pill to swallow. I enjoy the fact that by design, playing Star Citizen solo doesn't make anything truly impossible, it just becomes less efficient, and the trend is that there's always a bit of room for creativity. Aside from these cargo changes, the big ticket item is the new cargo contract missions, which I'll maybe totally try sometime once they get them working. Then with regards to the 4.0 delay again, there's a lot of talk about how all the stuff that was mentioned at last year's CitizenCon stands a chance of making it into a playable version of the game before the end of the year. Now, allow me to use an analogy. Star Citizen developers, CIG, are like a food truck that's trying to assemble and sell the most amazing sandwiches ever to be conceived by mortal gamer mouths. There are 4 types of people waiting around the food truck. Those that get served ship sandwiches and eat them with a big old smile on their face as the brown juices run down and around their mouths, eager for more. And those that get served ship sandwiches and eat them but are upset because for God's sake they just ate a ship sandwich. That's pretty gross, what the f are you doing? Then there are those that might have a small taste of the ship sandwich due to morbid curiosity and realize that the restaurant has potential. They made a slightly edible ship sandwich after all and will come back later once the menu menu gets upgraded or something. And lastly, there are people at other food trucks looking confusingly at a bunch of people eating ship sandwiches. At the end of the day, we're all eating ship sandwiches for some reason. You're allowed to enjoy the ship sandwich. You're allowed to not enjoy the ship sandwich. You're allowed to complain about a bad ship sandwich, and you're allowed to praise a good ship sandwich. No one is forcing you to eat the ship sandwich. Personally, I don't expect much out of my ship sandwich until Squadron 42 is completed and released. Once that's the case, I'll start to expect much greater things from your average Star Citizen patch, gameplay, and features. The development and progress of Star Citizen suffers because we're waiting for a whole ass other game to come out first. There are literally millions of reasons that could be way worse than that. Now, if you were to yank my chain and get me to be brutally honest about how I feel about the state of the Star Citizen project as a whole, what I would say is that I've been slow to realize that I used to tell friends about how Star Citizen is so special and unique because it doesn't need to obey publisher pressures, deadlines, and investor targets, and is immune from these things that have been systematically corrupting the releases of a lot of games for the last 15 or so years. However, it really feels, and this has obviously been for a while now, that the business and marketing end of the Star Citizen project has assumed that role of publisher, which unfortunately leads to patches getting released before they're ready, and we end up with a live build of the game like we have now. The project obviously needs infinite money and infinite time to get done. Speaking of time, I'm one of those weird patient gamers. I don't feel the need to play titles that I'm hyped for on day one. I held off on Helldivers until I was sure it would be worth playing, and I staved off Elden Ring for months until I was happy that I had the time to try it for myself. And now I'm excited to play Black Myth Wukong, but I'll happily wait for that to go on Steam sale. I even bought the first Total War Warhammer title, a game series that I absolutely love, on Humble Bundle for $1 after it had been out for well over a year. There are a ton of examples of games out there that have gotten better with age and dedication from their respective developers, and I don't think Star Citizen will be any different in that regard. In my mind, No Man's Sky created this weird new precedent where you can absolutely shit the bed with a game's release that gets overhyped beyond imagination, and once the reality of the game's crappiness sets in, it hits rock bottom and disappoints an entire disillusioned and angry player base. But then, with enough time and passion, No Man's Sky became the standard for which all badly released game redemption arcs are based on. Cyberpunk 2077 followed a similar trend and is now considered an incredible game that a lot of my friends recommend I play regularly. Now, this could be seen as a new and overly negative trend that live service games try to get away with by intentionally releasing in a subpar state and then milking their player bases while improving slowly over time. However, non-indie or quadruple A games, whatever the f that actually means these days, have become so insanely expensive and difficult to develop, it's hard to know for sure if this is avoidable in the first place. All I know is that today, right now, does anyone care about the awful state that No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk 2077 released in? That's in the past. No one really gives a shit. And I believe that Star Citizen will probably go the same way. No one will care how insanely bad or ridiculous the years and years of development and alpha stages of the game were if we eventually end up with a fun game that works and taps into its potential. We'll all be too busy enjoying the game. Thank you channel patrons and channel members for all your support. Thinking of pledging to this ludicrous space game? Then use one of the referral codes on screen now for a free 5,000 starting credits. If you enjoy my content and want to support the channel beyond a like and a subscribe, check the links in the description. Consider the join button below and follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/avoided or right here on YouTube for kinda cool live streams. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you around the verse. Cheers.